I'm going to call this one my mystery reel-to-reel tape deck. Tape recorder, because it has an amplifier in it. This one actually has a vacuum tube amplifier. It's a 4-track stereo, but it's old. And this one is actually probably quite rare. Check it out. This is an interesting unit. This is a Paros 750. It's a 4-track stereo, hi-fi tape recorder. Japanese made. Should be all tubes, which would be cool. And this was given to me, so haven't plugged it in or anything yet. Don't know if it works. We're going to find that out together, and we'll see if we can get this thing running. So let's take a look at the front of it before I even get into it. Front cover comes off like this, like all the old ones did. And here is the front of it. And what do we got here? Goodies in the front. What's in here? Do I have a power cord for it? Oh, I have a line cord, and I have a power cord. Excellent. What are these ones? Which are straight RCA cords, so we don't need to worry about those. But I do have a power cord, which is good because it is an oddball power cord that it uses. Looks like somebody's done some work on this. Maybe changed. Yeah, that looks safe. Oh well, we'll fix that up. Anyway, this is the unit. I don't have the head cover for it. The guy that gave it to me said he thinks he has the head cover and he's going to try and find it. Rewind, stop, and forward. And I think for fast forward, you pull that lever down like that, and that puts it into fast forward. That's how it works. Pause. Puts it into pause. And record. To record, you hold down, I think you hold down the switch. I could be mistaken. You do that. You pull the lever in and push it. Push the button. That one's sticking. Record left, or record right. Or record both, and then you do that. Looks like this has got two separate amplifiers in here. It looks like these are separate modules. Interesting. I've never seen one of these units before. Speed selector switch up here. And their speakers are in the side here. You open those up, and there's speakers in the side. Interesting. Before I power this thing up, I want to get separate switches for the amplifiers. Is that what that is? I think that's what that is. Separate switches for each amplifier. External speaker or external amplifier outputs. What, plugs on the back or on the side? I don't think so. No. I'm curious as to what the chassis of this thing looks like inside before I power anything up. I gotta figure out how to take it apart. Big fan back here to extract the heat. I just don't know how this thing comes apart. I see a couple screws on these panels. Volume and tone for each channel. Very interesting beast. Well, let's just plug this thing in and see if it goes boom. I mean, what's the worst that could happen, right? I doubt it's going to work, but we'll see. We'll see what it does. Okay. Nothing happens. I would think that those are for the amplifier. Oh. So the capstan shaft is not turning. I'm going to say it needs a belt. These are going to be for the power amps, I'm sure. Yeah, left and right. So that's a good sign. The amplifier seems to work. Controls are dirty. Uses Canon heads. Ooh, nice sound. That's going to be a dirty record play switch, that. So we got to clean the record play switches for starters. Oh, now that's interesting. That wasn't turning before, and now it is. So it's a drive idler, not a belt. And we've got torque here. Rewind. Rewind works with lots of torque. Oh, this thing's got lots of torque. This bloody thing might actually work. I think we'll grab a tape and we'll put a tape on this thing and see whether this thing actually does anything. Cool. Let me grab a tape. I'll grab an old tape just in case, but throw a tape on there and see what it does. Here's something I gotta like. It's got spring-loaded tape spools that'll hold the tape reels on without having to put suction cups on there, without having to tighten them down. That is kind of neat. Tape goes through here like that. This is a tape with sticky shed syndrome. We'll see how well the non-glass heads handle this. I don't know if there's anything on this tape. There is. Let's try a different speed. Ah, that's how you do it. You push it in. So the speed for 3 3/4 and a 1 7/8 is changed by removing the sleeve on the capstan here. You can see that this comes off the front here, I think. And 7.5, push it and lock it. Interesting. So now it's at 7.5. You guys will recognize his music. This is Music Bakery stuff I recorded on this tape. But this is a sticky shed tape that will not play on a glass head machine. Fast forward, it's not might have to put some rubber renew on there. Rewind is working okay. Cool. I'm quite impressed with this old machine. I'll have to do some research and see where the heck when this machine was made. It's a standard quarter track tape though. It's not like it's anything. It's not like a half track stereo. It's a quarter track, so it's a little more modern. But let's get this thing apart, and we'll clean up these controls and see how this thing performs. But looking so far, it's looking very promising. I can add a vintage old tube type reel-to-reel to my collection. Not that I need any more reel-to-reel machines. I've got enough reel-to-reel machines to start a museum. Almost anyway. But something about these old reel-to-reel machines, just I like them. You know, they're just kind of neat. Now this knob might have a screw that holds it on. I think it does. Should be a screw in here that here comes the rain. It's been humid as hell all day, and now it's starting to rain, and they're calling for thunder. These knobs just pull off on here, so we'll just remove them because I'm going to have to get into this as well. Clean the record play switches. I don't want to lose these screws. They're non-magnetic screws. Interesting, because you see I have to turn this to the forward position in order to remove it, because there's just a cutaway here on this keyed knob. So I guess I'll put this back on. That's kind of an interesting design. Do that in order to remove it, to reveal a nice idler drive mechanism. And it actually is quite well designed. I like it. Belt that drives the tape counter, which still drives the tape counter. It looks pretty sloppy, but hey, it doesn't matter. It's just driving the tape counter. We've got an idler here for the play and fast forward, 2 idlers here for rewind, 1 here for the speed, and that's how we adjust the speed. As you saw, we turn this like that, release it for the slower speed, and this drive idler will go up like that, and push it in and lock it down. Yeah, interesting. So there's the slow speed, and there's the high speed. Push it in and turn it. That's how you adjust the speed on this thing. But what a nice old chassis. I like it. There's a switch over here. I guess what's that? Oh, that's fast forward. That's to when you're in play and you do that, that mutes. There's a switch here. That would mute the sound so you wouldn't hear the tape screeching away. Neat. When you put it into rewind, it doesn't do anything. Or does it? That's the switch for the motor. So I'm going to put some rubber renew on these tires, and then we will see what it does. Okay, that goes onto there. Oh, you know what that's for? That is the slip clutch. Cool, look at this. This is interesting. Here, I'll plug this thing in so you can see this thing moving. Quite the design. So when you're in play, okay, play idler is driving. You see here, it slips. It's a slip clutch. You can see that the play idler is still driving this other one, and there's lots of torque on that. But when you put it into fast forward, this little idler here engages, and what it does is this is a split clutch. I don't know if you guys can see it or not. I'll throw some more light on there so you guys can see. You see it's split. So the front, I can stop it. The back side keeps spinning. What this little idler does is when you put it in the fast forward, this idler pulls down, which now provides more torque. And it's this little idler here that's slipping. The other one's driving fine, I think. Yeah, the back side's still going. You can see this is still spinning here. So this is the one that's slipping for fast forward. So we're going to put some rubber renew. The other one's fine. I don't need to do anything on that, and I don't need to do anything on the Capstan one because you can see I can stall the motor out. So these idlers are fine. This one here needs to have some rubber renew, and probably the rewind ones, oh, they're actually pretty good too. There's no problem with them. There's lots of torque for rewind. It was just the fast forward one here needs a little bit of help, so we're going to put some rubber renew just on that one, and that's all I'm doing to that part of the mechanism because everything else looks to be good on here. Even the capstan bearings spinning nice and freely. There's lubricant, I can see it. I can see the oil in here, so we're good. I might put a drop of oil down there just to prevent it from drying out, but it's looking good. I'm going to do this with the motor running in fast forward so that I can get a nice even coat. On both sides of the roller. As you can see, it's taking off quite a bit of oxidation off of it. Probably won't hurt to do these other ones while I'm at it. Just to give them a bit of a cleaning. There, that's better. Yeah, it's a lot more torque on it now. Okay, so that part's taken care of. We're gonna open up the front here, I think, now, and get into where the record play switches are. I'll try removing just these screws. This might just lift the amplifier board out by itself. It won't be a board, it'll be a chassis on this. This would have been made, I think, long before circuit boards were common. I should lift this front panel off, and then the chassis with the amplifier below should lift out. So that's that. Now, as I say, this is a separate chassis. It should just lift out like that. There we go. There's the tube amplifier. Wow. So the amplifier board just unplugs from the rest of the chassis. That'd be like for the tape heads and stuff, I think. And there should be another plug back here for the power for the motor. These is probably the tape heads here, these two that are shielded actually. We'll just undo those. They should just unplug. The brown one to the front. Good thing I'm recording this so I can remember it. The gray one to the back. Now I should be able to slide this amplifier board out a little more. And there's probably one more plug back here I gotta undo back here, which is for the motor power. And one more plug over here. Okay, what the heck? How's this one come apart? Just like that. Okay. Now, the chassis can be removed from the rest of the unit so that I can work on the amplifier away from the rest of the unit. What a nice little amplifier design. It looks like this tube's been replaced because that's got a Sylvania tube in it, so this has been serviced before, this unit. This one is, what is this one? EZ81. This would be probably rectifier tube. And this one here is a, what is this one? That's probably the oscillator for record. I'm thinking it's a dual triode of some type. This is going to be a preamp here, and these are going to be the power output tubes for each channel. Record play switch is this thing right here. be another one for the other channels. Turn up on the side. We can take a look at what's in the bottom here. See all the capacitors and resistors that I won't have to change because it does not appear to have many, if any, paper caps. These ones here are not paper. These ones are like a polymer. I don't think they cause a lot of problems. Not like the old waxed paper caps here. Here's our record play switch there. Our pots are here. Power cord goes into the back here. Main power transformer. A couple of, I don't know what those are. Big wire wound resistor here. So I'm going to clean these controls, get my neutral out. We'll spray these controls down and switches, get them cleaned up a bit, and then try this thing out. The meter's broken, the bottom of this meter's piece is missing. These are oil-filled caps, these ones, 0.05 microfarads. It's a Suzuki capacitor here. Guaranteed the oil in there is going to be PCBs. Guaranteed. Because of the age of it. That's just what they used in capacitors, was they used PCB oil, so we don't want to touch those things. We don't have to do anything to them. This is not a restore, this is just get this thing working and try it out, because this is mine. So if it records and plays and it's tubes, I'm happy. It goes into my collection of tube equipment. So that control should be clean. Now we'll do the switch here. What release is this one? Oh well, let's spray some cleaner into this switch first. We'll deal with how these things operate later. There's two switches in here. I'm trying to get cleaner into both of them. There. That should be enough into that one. Oh, I see. I see what happens. Ah, that's how it releases it. Okay, there's a lever up here. See this little lever here when you're in play, and when you release play, it pushes this lever. This lever pushes down on this, which is what releases the record switch when it locks in. When that lever goes down, right? If I push this one in, just tapping this. So here's how this works. That lever presses down on here. And that's what releases the buttons. If I press this button in, as soon as I start to press this one, it'll release the other one. Right? But this one won't release the first one because when you press down on here, it moves this lever here slightly, as you'll see, enough to release the other one, but not enough. But it won't release itself. It actually has to be triggered. That's what that bar does. So when you put them into record, you have to hold the buttons down and then go into record, or you put the machine into the play pause mode, and then you're able to push your 2 buttons down, release your pause, record, and when you turn the machine to stop, it releases both of the buttons. So that's how that works. Let me get some cleaner into these switches here, and we'll just clean these switches up. Do the same for the 2 controls up here. So these are the 2 audio output transformers for left and right. Power transformer, main filter. As I say, I think this one is the oscillator. I'd have to look it up, but I'm pretty sure that that's the oscillator. And what is this? That might be an interlock. We'll figure that out pretty quick. We'll just see what it does, because that might be an interlock that, you know, for safety. It's an interlock. It's a momentary contact switch that has to be in. So what that does is, if someone were to pull the screws and pull the chassis with it energized, this would shut off the power. That is what that is. This one's set up for 117 volts. It says on the side here. Be real interested to see who made this chassis. I'm thinking Sony. I think this thing's a Sony, to tell you guys the truth. The guy that gave it to me thought it was a Roberts, which is an Akai, but this doesn't look like any Akai. This mechanism looks like a Sony. If you've seen what the Akais look like, the way that they have cams in them, they're totally different. This is a steel cam. Akai of the day used pot metal, crappy cams that just fell apart. They were aluminum, cheap pot metal cams that broke. This screams Sony. Either Sony or Hitachi. Is what this looks like. It's either a Sony or a Hitachi machine, I think. The fact that the power cord says Sony on it, I don't know if that's the original cord or whether someone just found them, but Sony used plugs like this on all their stuff. I've got another Sony tape recorder that uses the same type of plug. The main power output tubes, there's 6 GW8 tubes. These are Toshiba tubes. And these probably are original. And I don't know what these ones are here. They're shielded. I don't know if I want to. I don't know if I want to risk removing them, just because I don't want to damage them. Right? These have got these metal shields around them. I would imagine that one of these units is probably rather rare to see these around now. You know, I mean, they were a dime a dozen back in the early 90s. I don't know whether this is late 50s or early 60s. It definitely is prior to the 70s, for sure, because tubes were gone by 1970. Everything was going solid state. So I'm gonna guess that this is probably early 60s, although not knowing for anything about it. I've got an Akai 1710W, which is a tube unit itself. And as I say, that's why I know, looking at this chassis, this is definitely not an Akai, because it is completely different. Like, there's no resemblance whatsoever between the design of this and the Akai that I have from 1968. They were in a nice wooden cabinet. I'm pretty sure this is a Sony. Anyway, let's put this chassis back in and get this thing hooked up and see how it sounds, and we'll make a test recording on it. That could be a challenge, because It uses 1/4-inch phone plugs. I don't think I've got any 1/4-inch phone plugs. I'll have to look and see. I might be able to salvage something from some headphone adapters and 3.5mm to RCA type cords to make it work. But we'll see if I can make a recording on this thing. But let's get the chassis back in first before I do anything else. Now the fun part, getting all the plugs plugged in. Not a whole lot of slack on here to work with. You guys remember which wire went to which one? I don't. Was it the brown to the front or the gray to the front? Do you guys remember? I think it was the brown to the front, the gray to the back, if I'm not mistaken. Doesn't matter. I mean, really, it just reversed the left and the right. Nothing serious. Okay, that in there. That should I think once this is held in place with the screws, it'll probably be fine. If I push it in, it releases it. But this has got to be held up, because if it's not in place, well, it does it now. I just kind of moved the mechanism a bit and got the lever in position. It's kind of a critical adjustment. I didn't have to bend or twist anything. I was just manipulating the chassis into place. So let's put the cover on here, which should bring this thing up a bit. Once it's secured, this will hold the chassis up a little bit higher. And then the two screws in the bottom that hold this bottom chassis in place will keep it from slipping forward. So we'll put the 5-inch reels on here. I like those. They all tape decks should have had hubs like that. Not like some of these ones you have to put the suction cups on or the reels fall off, or the ones that you have to either pull the hub or screw it down. These are a nice solid friction fit. They're not going to go anywhere. Okay. Let's hear how this sounds. Turns off the speaker. That shuts the power off for everything. So if you have a mono tape, you only turn on the channel that you need. Fast forward's working good. The brakes work. Rewind works. Excellent. Pause. Okay, I think we'll put the front face back on, and I'll figure out a way to make a recording on this. Much harder to find will be the missing knobs for this thing, the fast forward and the pause. I don't have them. I'd love to find them, but that might be a chore. I'll look for them, but I'm not holding my breath I'm going to find any, because I've never even heard of one of these machines before. There. That is back to as I received it. We'll put on the sticky shed tape. It's just got junk on it. And try and make a recording on it. I believe this should give me some signal in. I've got two phono radio or cords plugged in, two 3/4 inch. I got level here. Can't hear it because the speakers go off when it's making the recording. So let's just try making a recording. I have zeroed the counter, and we'll just let this thing record here for a bit and see what I get. This is what should be recording right now if I play the amplifier. Just so you guys know what we're supposed to be hearing when I play it back. Sounds like the old recording's still in the background, doesn't it? I think that bias tube might be a bit weak, and we're not getting a good bias. Either that or the head's dirty. That's a possibility too, because I haven't cleaned it. But the recording doesn't seem to be very good. Let's try cleaning the head and see whether that will improve the recording. Again, this is not a tape that should be used. It's an old, very old tape, sticky shed syndrome. It's interesting that you hear one of them, when one channel's recording, you hear it coming out the other speaker. Interesting. Monitor button maybe? Don't know. But it's certainly, when I flick that switch on, I can monitor what's being recorded. going to lubricate this capstan bearing here. This bearing is pretty gummed up. So we're going to clean off the grease from here. I think the spring probably is supposed to go on the other side of that too, to put some pressure on the felt pads, because they're not in any way being pushed up against the tape. They're just sitting there. This is all gummed up. We're going to put a drop of oil on this and on the back side of the capstan shaft there. Clean this out. Okay, that'll get some lubricant into the back bearing there. And we'll put some on here. That's a little better. I can hear somebody screaming now because I'm putting a 3.5 inch reel or 3-inch reel on this. I can just hear it. And of course, this is something that I had recorded on that. I guess I had recorded something on here. Okay, let's try recording again. Now these, oh, they're still not up there that strong. What the heck? Those were pushing up that pad a lot stronger before I put the pinch roller back on. Pretty sure the bias tube is the fault. I'm going to just remove this chassis again from the bottom, and I don't think I have to take this whole thing apart. I think I can probably do it just by removing the 2 screws on the bottom and pulling the chassis, this bottom part out, and that way I can give the switch a shot of cleaner, for one. And 2, I'm just going to make sure that bias tube is properly seated. First time I took this thing apart, I didn't know how it came apart. But now I think if I just pull these 2 screws out on the bottom here, this chassis should slide out to access the tubes without having to take the rest of it apart. I think. I could be right. Could be wrong too. But I think the chassis will slide out if I just do that. Just like that. This is the tube. No, this one over here. This is the tube I'm thinking over here. That's the rectifier, and this is the. I can power this thing up too with it apart like this. I just have to push the switch in to make it work. It's just a 12AU7 is all this one is. So pretty common tube. I probably have one in my stereo. I think my amp uses 12AU7s for the preamp. So I may have one of these to try. We'll see what happens. So if I want to try to record with this thing, with the chassis out, I have to push the switch in on the back. And now the power is on, so now we got high voltage on here. We'll wait for this thing to warm up so that I can get some levels. We'll just try making a recording. A little bit high there. After wiggling this tube to see whether it's just a tube seating problem. It might be a bad tube, so that's why I'm trying it with it apart like this. Okay. See whether we get any volume on both channels. Well, I'm going to try a different tube. I'm pretty sure I have one of these. This is just a standard 12 AU7, and I believe my stereo amp has one, so let me go rob one. If it's either an AU or an AT7 that's in my amp, I don't remember. Let me go check and see. I do have a 12 AU7, so we'll plug that one in and try another recording. We can look at the bias signal. So we're looking, this is going to the head. This is one channel, about 92 volts peak to peak. That's dropping, 88 volts. At 89.5 kilohertz, 87.6 volts still. That's lots of voltage going to the head. That's one channel. Let's look at the other channel and see. That's the orange wire. Let's see if the red wire also has signal on it, which it does. And this has also got about 85 volts on here. So we are getting an erase signal to the head, yet the tape is not being erased. It's either the head isn't working. This has me wanting to take a closer look at the wear on this, at the tape head. Look at the wear on these guides. These heads might just be worn out. They don't have any physical wear, although that erase head doesn't look to be that great. Look at the wear on this sucker. It doesn't have a groove worn in it or anything, but it certainly is. You can see the wear on this thing. How about the record head? This one here also. I mean, it doesn't look that bad. Although the erase head certainly here is. Yeah, I think that's where our problem is on this. Is this head is worn. Although normally when the heads get worn, they have a sharp groove that you can actually catch your fingernail on. But they don't. But you can see the wear. Let's try cleaning that thing again and see. Let's just try and erase that. I'll just take the inputs down to 0, and we'll put this into record again. To pause, and we'll just erase a segment that I just recorded and see if it erases it. Okay, let's see. Whoops. try that again. No, it's not erasing. I'm convinced that the problem on this, as far as erasing the tape goes, is the head itself is shot. The head is worn. You saw how badly worn that head is. I think that that's the biggest problem right there, is the head gap is worn to the point where it's not producing a sufficient magnetic field. Well, take a look at that head. Holy smoke, is that thing ever worn? It's hard to tell from the other angle, but from this angle you can really see that this is the erase head, how badly worn this head is. Might be a candidate for trying to polish that up. A process known as lapping. Use fine sandpaper basically to basically polish up the head itself. Here's the record head. It's in pretty rough shape too. Look at that. Wow. That is in really sad shape. I'm going to try using some Comet type cleanser, which is what we used to use to take the sheen off of head drums. And I mean, I got nothing to lose on this. We'll try and resurface this thing a little bit and see if I can actually make this recorder work a little bit better than it is. Because, as I say, in this state, I really got nothing to lose. The performance is so bad because the heads are shot. You might be able to lap this and actually make the thing work a little bit better than it does. So what I'm doing is I'm using some Comet cleanser because it is gritty, to try and clean off any oxidation and so forth on the head and trying to polish it up a bit. I don't know if it's going to have any effect on it because this head is quite badly worn, but you can see what's coming off the head. It's turning the end of the Q-tip black. So we might be able to improve the sound, at least on playback. That's the big thing. If I can make this thing play back and sound half decent, then I've won half the battle, even if it doesn't record properly. But we'll give this thing a good cleaning and see what happens. I'm just trying to improve on what I've got now, as you can see. Yeah, there's a lot of oxidation is coming off the head that was probably accounting for a very poor tape to head contact, which, especially if the gap is contaminated or clogged by rust or oxidation, we're not going to get a good magnetic field, and therefore it's not going to work. Okay, I'm going to wash this off first, and we'll wipe this down and clean it, and then we'll try this thing out and see whether I've made any improvement to the operation. Okay, I'm just using water now to rinse off the head. Okay, this is what the head looks like now. I'm going to thread a tape up and first of all see if it'll erase some existing material off of a tape, and then we'll see how it records. I'm not expecting anything spectacular, but I'm hopeful that it's going to change the performance from what I was getting before, and that will give me an idea whether I should spend some more time and take the heads off on this thing and try to properly lap them. So first I'm going to play the tape and then we'll try and erase. So here what's on the tape. So we know there's stuff on the tape. So there's the stuff that's on the tape. We're going to zero the counter. I'm going to put this thing in record with no input. There, we're in record with no input. So now let's just see whether this is going to erase the tape, because it wasn't erasing before due to the poor contact on the head here with all that wear on and all that corrosion and crap on the tape head. So let's just see first of all whether we've actually accomplished anything on the erase side. So I had it zeroed at 2 is where I started it. So here we'll hear some music, and then it should, if it's erasing, cut out. This is not in record now. It's good. And nope. Right channel erased. Not the left channel. In the end, the head does need to be lapped. I couldn't get the erase to work much better than that, but also the screw that adjusts it is broken off. Hey, the screw up here is snapped. The head is snapped off, so I can't even adjust it. But what I did get after using the good old Comet cleanser to clean off all that varnish and crap on the head, I actually got this thing sounding pretty good on playback. I just wanted you guys to hear what it sounds like on playback, because we're going to leave this one at right here. I'm not going to go any further. It plays. It actually sounds pretty good for playback, and at some point I may get around to taking this head out and actually trying to file it down and get that gap working again, because it's just not erasing. But as a playback machine, which really, I mean, reel to reel, we're not really using them to record on now, but it's nice to have one for playing back old tapes. Listen to playback. It actually is sounding pretty good on both channels. This is the built-in speakers, of course. Okay, that was the sound off the speakers. Let's plug it right in to the outputs from here and let's hear how good this thing sounds, because you guys will be impressed. This thing sounds awesome. Anyway, hey, it sounds great. I'm pretty happy with what I'm getting out of this now. As you can see, all of the features work. It fast forwards, it rewinds, it plays. Okay, record, leave something to be desired. I guess if I put a white tape on it, it would work. It would record okay, but it's not erasing properly what's on the existing tape. And that's the record, or the erase head here is pretty much worn down to nothing. It's going to need to be resurfaced. That might be a project for another day, but for now, I'm just happy that this thing plays, and it's a piece of history that will go into my collection of old reel-to-reels. I've got a few of them now that I'm collecting, and yeah. Anyway, thanks for watching, and we will catch you in the next one real soon. Bye for now.